Hello and welcome to this explainer. Today we are exploring a truly fascinating concept, geographical determinism. We're going to look at how our physical environment, the literal ground we walk on, and the air we breathe dictates not only the vibrations of our vocal cords when we speak, but also the most extreme, intimate traditions we practice as human beings. It's an incredible journey, so let's get started. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Climate and the sound of language. 2. Spanish crosses the Atlantic. 3. Contrasting grammar and vocabulary. 4. Extreme coming-of-age traditions. And finally, number 5. Unique rituals of death. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Climate and the Sound of Language. We're starting with the very sounds that come out of our mouths and how the literal temperature of a region shapes the way its people speak. So can climate change how we speak? It's a pretty bold question, right? I mean, can the climate you live in actually change the physical way you form words? Well, to figure this out, we've got to look at a massive recent study published in PNAS Nexus, which literally set out to map the sonority of human speech all across the globe. And the scope of this study is just wild. 5,000. That's the number of languages and dialects from all over the world that researchers analyzed. They looked at an unbelievable 346,000 individual words. And what they found? A totally undeniable global trend connecting average temperature to acoustic resonance. The data showed this really clear contrast. Languages that evolved in warm climates tend to use open, highly resonant words packed with vowels. Think about the Spanish word boca, right? It means mouth, super open. But on the flip side, languages from cold climates use way more closed phonetic structures. They require less vocal volume and favor words with harder, closed consonants, like labios, meaning lips. Now, what's really interesting about this is the science actually driving the adaptation. According to researcher Tianheng Wang, cold, dry air literally makes it harder for our vocal cords to vibrate. Plus, naturally, if you're freezing, you kind of want to keep your mouth close to the elements, right? But warm air does the opposite. It actually absorbs and muffles high-pitched sounds. So if you want to be heard in a hot climate, you absolutely need those resonant, open, vowel-heavy words that can travel further in the heat. It makes total sense when you think about it. Of course, we do have to look at this objectively. Cognitive scientist Gary Lupien points out that this whole field is still, evolving. The study only averaged about 40 words per language, and it didn't weigh those words based on how often they're actually used in daily life. So a super resonant but rarely used word might skew the data just a bit. Still, this climate correlation, it is a deeply fascinating look into human adaptation. All right, moving on to Section 2, Spanish crosses the Atlantic. Let's narrow our focus from 5,000 global languages down to just 1. So, when Spanish crossed the Atlantic, it definitely didn't travel uniformly. The distinct dialects we hear today all across Latin America were heavily shaped by early mercantile trade routes. The coastal regions of Latin America basically had the most direct maritime contact with southern Spain. And because of that specific geographic link, the Spanish spoken in these coastal macrozones shares incredibly deep phonetic roots with dialects from Andalusia and the Canary Islands. This localized evolution led to some major phonetic shifts. Take seseo, for example. This is the merging of the distinct s and th sounds you hear in Spain into just a single sound across Latin America. Then you've got voceo, which is a really unique second-person pronoun usage found mostly in southern cone countries, like Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile. What's crazy is that voceo actually died out in Spain back in the early 20th century. But because these South American populations were geographically isolated from the motherland's linguistic shifts, the trait just survived and thrived in the Americas. It's like a linguistic time capsule. Next up, Section 3, Contrasting Grammar and Vocabulary. Let's see how this separation altered expression over centuries. You can really see how distinct these regions have become just in everyday conversation. In Spain, vosotros is used for informal plurals, but Latin America universally goes with the status. Where someone from Spain might say pasarlo bien, to have a good time, a Latin American is going to say pasarla bien. If you get angry in Spain, it's enfadarse, but in Latin America, it's enojarse. And what's really fascinating here is that terms considered the modern standard in one place, like pararse for standing up in Latin America, are often viewed as totally archaic remnants in Spain, where they'd say ponerse de pie. And this brilliantly illustrates how geography impacts even our nonverbal stylistic choices. Because a lot of Latin America, especially countries like Mexico, is much closer geographically and culturally to English-speaking nations, they've actually adopted the decimal point and standard English quotation marks. Meanwhile, Spain holds on to the traditional comma for decimals and those angular French-style quotes. Okay, Section 4, Extreme Coming-of-Age Traditions. Let's pivot our explainer from verbal expression to physical action. The most painful sting on the planet. Hidden deep in the Brazilian Amazon, the environment is incredibly harsh, and the wildlife absolutely reflects that. This is home to the bullet ant, an insect famous for delivering literally the most agonizing sting of any creature on Earth. And for the young boys of the Satari Mawe indigenous community, enduring this insect is the key to becoming a man. This is an intensely grueling, deeply sensory ritual. First, the boys venture out into the jungle with a shaman to gather these bullet ants. They drug them temporarily with herbs and then weave them into special gloves with the stingers pointing directly inward. When the ants wake up, the boys have to put their hands into these gloves and endure that excruciating pain for 10 full minutes, all while performing a ritual dance. And get this, they don't just do it once. To be recognized as true men in their community, they have to repeat this agonizing trial 20 times. No way around it. When we step back, it's wild to see how differently communities interpret growth and maturity based on their geography. Contrast that intense Amazonian trial by fire with Greece, right? Their parents just encourage kids to throw their lost baby teeth onto the roof to ensure healthy adult growth. Or look at Kawasaki, Japan, home to the Kanamara Matsuri. Local legend says a demon was once fought off using an iron penis forged by a blacksmith. Today, that hyperlocal legend has evolved into this massive, super joyous festival celebrating fertility and sexual diversity. And finally, Section 5, Unique Rituals of Death. Let's transition to how our specific geographies dictate the way we mourn and honor the dead. So the crucial point here is that our environment literally shapes our deepest fears and comforts. Take the Yanomami tribe of the Amazon in Brazil and Venezuela. For them, the idea of leaving a loved one's body in the cold earth to decompose is considered absolutely horrifying. To ensure peace, they cremate the body and actually consume the ashes in a communal vegetable soup. To an outsider, it might sound shocking, but for them, this deeply intimate act is the only way to ensure the soul rests and doesn't return to torment the living. Meanwhile, over in Madagascar, the geography and tribal history have birthed the Famarihana festival. Every 7 years, families go to their crypts, unearth the remains of their deceased loved ones, and lovingly wrap them in fresh, clean cloth. Then, they literally dance with the bodies through the streets to this upbeat, joyful music before returning them to the tomb. It is so important to understand that this isn't some morbid celebration of death. It is a profoundly joyous, physical celebration of rebirth and connection to their ancestors. When we pull all of these sources together, such a beautiful picture emerges. From the way the temperature of the air forces us to open or close our mouths when we speak, to the historical trade routes that decide whether we say vosotros or ustedes, all the way to the jungle insects and tribal histories that define our rites of passage and our grief. Human diversity is a direct, living, breathing result of our geographic adaptation. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Take a look around where you live right now. Consider the weather, the history, the isolation, or the connections of your own hometown. What local traditions, unique rituals, or linguistic quirks has your own environment shaped within you? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring the fascinating world around you.